gleeful that I humiliated my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife. Back in February, my newlywed wife went away for a week to see her family and friends, which we had moved across the country from for her fellowship. I didn't come with her as I was saving my PTO to cash out to help fund our next move, which would have been last month. And I also needed some dental work done and couldn't delay it anymore. While she was staying with her family, she called me. I could sense something off in her voice, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me how unhappy and alone she has felt since we had moved. She said I felt more like a roommate and that I had ruined her fellowship for her because I didn't care for the area we were living in. Very high see-all. I felt incredibly guilty hearing this. We had only been married 5 months, together for 6+ years total, and living with each other for 4.5 years. And she was already suggesting marriage counseling. I didn't protest. I was eager to work things out, as I adored and loved her very much. Over the next several weeks, I was planning activities for us every weekend, on top of doing all the cooking and cleaning in the apartment. I had always done this though. We had our first marriage counseling session, and my wife said she feared that maybe we were just too different or incompatible. Hearing this felt like a gut punch. Where was this concern prior to moving and getting married? Then came March 31st and April 1st. We went out on the former for a long walk after work and some drinks. She told me she was feeling better about things, and I felt a huge sigh of relief. The next day we went out for breakfast, then spent the rest of the day car shopping until he found something we liked. After that, I took her out to a very nice restaurant for dinner. From there we went to the hot tub and had some passionate sex. I felt like we starting to get out of the valley. April 2nd. I'll never forget this day. I woke up early, and despite the last few days seemingly going well, I still didn't feel like things were quite right. When my wife had told me 2 months prior she was unhappy, I confided this to my mother. My mother's first comment to me was, "There might be someone in her office." I didn't want to believe that, but it was always in the back of my head. I was up early, as I mentioned, and my curiosity got the best of me, so I checked her phone. Sure enough, there was someone in the office. Someone she was texting minutes after we had sex. Someone she had been sending nudes to, meeting up with, and planning future dates with. I was crushed, but then I exploded. For the last several weeks, I had been beaten down thinking I was the cause of relationship falling apart, only to find out her affair began coincidentally a few days before I received her phone from her parents' house. I woke her up and asked her, "What the f*** is this?" At that point, I just needed to unload. I called her every name in the book to break her down and to hurt her. I then called her affair partner, but he didn't pick up, so I left him some threatening messages about beating him up and exposing them in the office. He was a subordinate of hers and engaged himself. Maybe his fiancée would like to know. At that point, I felt I just needed to leave. I told her she needs to figure out what she wants because she crossed the line. I went back home, but before I did, she asked me to continue counseling remotely so we could repair things. I still foolishly loved her and agreed. Over the next several weeks in counseling, it became evident that she wasn't taking any accountability. She harped on the hateful things I said to her after my discovery, and how my threats to her affair partner made her view me as potentially violent, and this made her afraid of me. This is despite me never laying a hand on anyone in my life. Something she knew. I wanted her to agree to an intensive marriage retreat, weekend after her fellowship ended. As we're discussing it, a coworker of hers texted me, asking if I knew that my wife was cheating on me. It turns out the affair never stopped, and my separation allowed it to turn into a full-blown relationship. Everyone in the office knew, but were hesitant to tell me. She was still parading around work, talking about me like I was still living with her and all was well. I obviously had already discovered it 2 months prior, but now I knew that I was just being strung along. For what? That's I don't know. At that point, I had it. I took the evidence that I saved in April and sent it to her HR department after calling them. I knew the email addresses of several of her coworkers and CC'd them. I sent the most salacious stuff her parents, siblings, best friends, mutual friends, and best of all, the HR department of her next employer. I let her file for divorce, as I knew that would be the end result of my revenge campaign, and it's something I should have done in April anyway. From what I'm told, she was terminated from her fellowship and the job she was supposed to start this month. Apparently, she's also emotionally distraught due to me humiliating her to family and friends, as well as destroying her reputation in the short term. And you know what? It makes me so happy. I'm glad she's been humiliated, and I only wish I could inflict more pain on her. Second story. I got revenge on my ex-girlfriend for cheating on me. This happened years ago when I was around 18 and dating a girl I had gone to high school with. We had been together for about a year, and towards the last month of our relationship, things started to die out. We wouldn't talk as much, and she never had time for me. She claimed she was always working at her family's grocery store. Her family had their own business for years. It was a small grocery store that at one point, while I was in between jobs, I even worked at for a short time. Her family were lovely, and me and her father got along great and still chat every now and then because I was always working or studying, didn't party, and had set goals for myself early in life, which her father thought was awesome. So, anyway, back to our relationship. Because we both worked, we only had the weekends free, so usually we would do our best to spend time with each other, but she had grown distant, and I hadn't thought anything of it. But one weekend, I receive a call from a friend of mine who tells me she had seen my girlfriend out with another guy. I didn't want to believe it. I was devastated, but I thought before I throw any accusations, I would get my own proof first. It took me almost 3 weeks to convince her to spend time with me. When she agreed and came over for a night after work, I had planned on confronting her to find out for myself. She arrived shortly after dark and told me she was going to have a shower. She went into the bathroom but had left her phone with her bag and keys on the table. So I did what anyone who has been told they were being cheated on would do. I went through to see for myself. And what do you know? She was cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend who was a dirtbag. You see, he was one of the kids at school that messed around, never came to school, was out smoking and drinking instead. I never really interacted with him outside of being asked for a lighter for a cigarette. But he was also selling drugs at school. Evie always thought people who sell drugs to kids are dirtbags. Not cool at all, bro. I found out she had been going to see him on the weekends to do drugs and drink as well as sleeping with him. There were messages talking about how I was too nice or focused on work too much, how she's only with me because her family loves me, and I can handle that if you tell me that. Not cheat on me because of it. I would rather leave a relationship freely. This hit me really hard and messed with my perception of women afterwards. I had never been cheated on before and didn't know how to handle the feeling, but I wasn't going to let her do me like that. Here comes the sweet revenge. You see, in those messages, they had been talking about needing money for alcohol or drugs and not having enough. This conversation led to him convincing her to steal it from her family business. She had been getting away with almost $800 or so every weekend, as well as stealing items from their shop. So I thought fast, screenshot all the messages, and sent them to her father from her phone. I told him it was me, and that this is what I had found in his daughter's phone, shortly after she had finished up in the shower. I told her we were finished and I knew everything. I told her to leave, and I had a surprise for her when she got home too, which she was confused about. She left after that, and I received a call from her dad who was apologized to me for his daughter's actions and sounded almost as devastated as I was. He told me he had already called the police and they were waiting for her to get back home, as well as collecting her ex-boyfriend as an accomplice. I was shocked, but thankful that I had cut dead weight from my life in a just fashion. Considering she cheated on me, she got to spend the night in a cell with her ex and was ordered to pay back the amount by a judge and given community service. He, on the other, had happened to have previous warrants out, and I don't know what happened to him after. I wiped my hands clean of her and moved forward. But man, that felt so much better that she at least got some punishment as a result. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please give it a like and write your opinion in the comments. See you soon.